Hey everyone, I'm Mike O'Neill and welcome to Flyboys. I wanted to share with you an enhancement that I recently made to my workshop that I'm pretty excited about. About 16 years ago, I was gifted a paint spray booth from a fellow that I worked with who was moving away and didn't want to take it with him. Given that he was a model railroader and used the spray booth for his model railroading, but was not going to continue that. So I gladly took the spray booth off his hands, and it's been basically sitting unused ever since then. As you'll see here in a minute, the spray booth itself is a bit of a beastie. It's made out of 3/4 inch plywood and 2x4s, and at the time it was kind of beat up and needed some work. We were in another house at that time, and I wasn't an active modeler at that time, so it pretty much sat in my basement unused, although I at one occasion did take the time to put a new fresh coat of paint on it. When we moved into our current house about 7 years ago, I brought it down into the basement here with the intention of ultimately using it in my workshop, which is what you're seeing sort of behind me. For the most part, it sat right here in the workshop. If you look at previous Flyboys videos of mine, you can see it here in the video behind me. And for the last 7 years, it's sat there pretty much unused. It's been primarily used as just a storage rack. And why is that? Well, because I had no place to vent it here in this workshop. The house we have is vintage late 1970s, and so it's roughly 45 years old, and the basement only has 3 windows in it, and they are at the other end of the basement from where my workshop is, and those 3 windows are located under 2 of the primary bedrooms in the house. So, plus those windows are solid windows. They have no opening or venting capability on them. So the spray booth sat behind me unused for years while I on and off again pondered how to vent it properly out of the basement. But that was not a problem because I wasn't doing a lot of painting at that time, and I didn't have an overabundance of a need for it. But recently, with my interest in plastics modeling taking an uptick, and also me wanting to get on with some more of my model railroad craftsman structure builds, both of those activities do a lot of painting, particularly with airbrush, and I needed that spray booth in order to do airbrushing. So the issue became, how do I vent that? And I couldn't do it at this end of the basement as I've described because there was no place to vent it. So ultimately I came up with a solution that involved moving it to the other end of the house, the basement here, and replacing one of the basement windows that, as I said, was a 45-year-old solid glass window with a brand new glass block window, with one of the glass blocks being replaced with a dryer vent. And so once I came up with that solution, everything kind of fell in place. I wasn't real concerned about having to walk to the other side of the basement every time I wanted to use the spray booth because it was such a good solution. So what I'm going to do at this point is take you over to the other side of the basement where I've got the paint booth, the spray booth set up, and show you what I'm actively working with at this point in time. So here we are at the other end of the basement, and let me first start out by apologizing for the inadequate lighting. This area of the basement has primarily been used for storage, and we did not need a lot of good lighting. So for the purposes of this video, I've enhanced the lighting here a little bit, and hopefully it's adequate, but it's still not great, and so again I apologize for that. Before I get into the spray booth itself, let me first swing over here and show you the solution for how to vent it. This is where one of the 3 basement windows is, and we replaced the old solid non-movable window with this glass block window. And as you can see in the lower left corner of the glass block, one of the blocks has been replaced with a dryer vent opening, and that's venting out the spray booth. And this solution is working just wonderfully. I will say now that I'm thinking of it, the motor on this spray booth, the blower motor, is so powerful that I've gained a second advantage with this arrangement. Outside that window is a basement window well that tends to collect leaves in the fall when they all come down. It's probably 12 to 18 inches deep, and it gets filled with fallen leaves. Well, all I need to do is to turn the motor on for the spray booth, and the exhaust is powerful enough that it blows all those leaves out of the wheel well. So that's another little advantage of this whole setup. At this point, let me come over to the spray booth itself. As you can see, it's a pretty robust piece of equipment here. As I said before, it's made out of 3/4 inch plywood and 2x4s, and the base down there, you can see all the 2x4s, and there's a couple shelves underneath there. And obviously, again, I apologize for the conditions here. We've got this shoved in with all the storage stuff, so there's not a lot of pretty stuff around it, but it's functional and works for me. Then on top, again, it's 3/4 inch plywood up on top, so it makes a great shelf for storage of all my cans of paints and jars of dope, etc. And underneath there, let me move this chair out of the way. You can see that there's two shelves under there, and on the bottom shelf on the right, I have an air compressor for one airbrush, and then above it on the second shelf, I have it's an Iwata compressor for the second airbrush. And that's because I'm able to run two airbrushes at the same time with this setup. By the way, the other thing that I still have to work on here is my electrical connections. Having an extension cord and with everything plugged in that way is not ideal, but I'll work on that. As far as lighting, back on the lighting situation, while there's not a lot of lighting in this end of the basement, the lighting for the area inside the spray booth itself is totally adequate, because it has, as you see here, if I can find it, there we go. It has a built-in fluorescent light, and that adds more than enough light to show me what I'm doing during all my painting sessions. For the moment, I've switched the view of the camera over to show the side of the paint booth, so you can see the arrangement I've got set up for my airbrushes. Up front here, I've got the Iwata, which I'm using this for acrylics and enamels, primarily on plastic models and my railroad structure craftsman kits. And these are just simple hooks, so everything just hooks right on. I can just reach around, grab what I need, and then hang it back up when I'm done with it. Second one is a Pache airbrush, which I'm going to be using this for dope on my airplane models. This one has a bottle feed underneath that'll hold a larger quantity of paint, and so this will be used for my doping. By the way, both of these airbrushes are dual action airbrushes. And again, that just hooks right back up there. The final one I won't be using with this paint booth. I use this outside when I'm painting my larger control line and other large models. I have a separate compressor out in the garage, and that's what this one gets hooked up to. But in the meantime, it's stored down here with the rest of them. So this is a very convenient arrangement on storing my airbrushes, yet keeping them very accessible to the area where I'm working. So moving back around to the front, here I'm able to show you the actual inside of the spray booth itself. The measurements of this are quite large. It's 22.5 inches wide by 20.5 inches high and 19.5 inches deep. So it's got enough volume to handle pretty much any of the models that I would want to handle with this in here. As I said before, there's very good lighting in here. In the back is where the motor, the fan is that sucks the air out, and the filter that I'm using is a simple household furnace filter cut in half. So I buy one filter and I get 2 uses out of it. For purposes of this video, I just put a new filter in so it looks nice for you guys. That filter has worked wonders. You can really see the quantity of paint that it's filtering out of the system here. I have this little hanging string here, so if I need to hang something and paint it from a hanging standpoint, I can do that. Of course, I have my mask. I don't paint without using it. It's not an N64 mask, but then I'm not screening for COVID down here. I'm just screening for paint fumes. So, but I have found that this is not an issue to use this at all in my painting. I also have a little hanger here. I can hook things on here and either hang from there, or typically hook things here for drying and then put them up from a ceiling joist or whatever and hang things up there so they can dry. Of course, I use gloves. I don't want to be painting my hands all the time. And then here, and I'll come back to these in a minute, for the first model that I built, which was a plane that I sprayed in here, I was using this as a paint stand for the plane and then putting some of the parts on here and spray painting them there. But I've got another arrangement that I'll show you, and that is this here. I just recently 3D printed this paint stand here, which I'm really, really happy about. It's got a good solid base on it, and it'll hold the planes very adequately while I'm painting them. So for instance, right here is a Boeing 247 plastic model that I'm in the process of building, and I'm just about ready to paint this. So when I go to paint this, it would sit in here, on here, and then I can turn it around and paint it from various angles, as you can see, or I can take and I can put it in upside down, and I can airbrush it from various angles. So I'm really pleased with the utility that this is going to bring me in my work. And this is just one design of a paint stand. There's a variety of other paint stand designs that I can 3D print on my 3D printer as I find the need arises. Now itself, the motor on this is really powerful. I forgot to look up how many horsepower this is on the back. I didn't really feel like climbing back there, but it's very strong. So here's the on and off button for the motor. I'm going to press this and then I'll show you with this glove how strong this is. Here we go. Okay, it's fully up and running. Now it just holds that glove there. Turn it off. And now once again, turn it on. And again, all that is being vented outside. So this has proven to be overwhelmingly capable of getting all the the fumes and overspray and everything out of here, to the point that when I've been using this, I really don't smell any paint smell beyond just this immediate area here. It's not permeating through the basement, especially not permeating upstairs. Everything is going out there besides the paint vapors themselves. All the fumes are going out. So it's been really effective at keeping this area nice and clear and breathable. The other thing that I was concerned about was noise. Let me turn on the Iwata compressor, for instance. That's this one here. And here's the Iwata brush. And when I turn this on, you're going to hear two motors. You're hearing the water compressor and the vent motor. I was concerned about how noisy that would be upstairs. This end of the basement is the bedroom end of the basement. We have our master bedroom in the back corner, and this front corner we have a spare bedroom that's currently not being used. So that's why I located it here. I didn't want any noise or smell or whatever under the master bedroom. I had it all taken under this spare bedroom. Well, I've had all of this up and running and gone up to the bedroom there, and that the best I hear is a low hum from that bedroom. It's nowhere near as noisy up there as what you hear down here. So this has turned out to be a very good location for it, both from a venting standpoint and from a noise standpoint. And I don't even mind having to travel across the basement every time I want to do any painting, because this is just such an ideal solution. So I've been very happy with this. The final thing I wanted to show you about this is the fact that I'm very happy with the fact that I can store all my paints, dopes, rattle cans, etc. up here on top of the unit, right where they're going to be needed to be used. And in addition to being able to store all the paints up there, as I've already shown you earlier, I've got 2 storage shelves down here, which besides the 2 air compressors, I can put other paint accessories and supplies down there. So overall, this has worked out to be a very good solution for my airbrushing needs. So as I said in the beginning, what really prompted this was my desire to start doing some plastic modeling and also pick up some more on my HO Craftsman structure building. Both of those disciplines, modeling disciplines, involve a lot of airbrushing if you're really going to get into higher quality finishes on them. And so in order to use the airbrush, I needed a place to vent it, and that's where this solution has come into play. And I'm very, very happy with the results and the capabilities it's given me. As an example here, recently I built my first plastic model kit in 30 or 40 years, and it's this Grumman Golf Hawk here, which I'm going to be doing a Flyboys post shortly about the building of it and the Boeing 247 that you saw in the spray booth a little bit ago. This one was done with the airbrush. There's no decals on it, but it was done with the airbrush, and there's no way I could have gotten this kind of a finish on it by hand brushing this. So I've got to learn more about the techniques for airbrushing and improve my skill with it, but as a first foray into it, I was very pleased with this. So again, that's what kind of prompted all this, and it's going to expand my modeling capabilities and hopefully my craftsmanship going forward. So that's it. That's the latest from Flyboys here. My next post will be hopefully in the next couple of weeks, and I'll be doing a post on both the build of this Golf Hawk that I just showed you and the Boeing 247. And then after that, I need to get back to balsa building. I've got a couple deadlines that I'm coming up against, so I've got 2 airplanes that have been in the works for years, literally, and it's my intention to get back heavy duty on them and get them finished. So that's it. Hopefully you enjoyed this look at my latest enhancement to my workshop here, and thank you as always for watching this video and reading the blog, and we look forward to seeing you in the future on Flyboys. Thank you and take care.